Broadcasting live from an Airstream somewhere in Tornado Alley, bringing you the people, places, and stories from the Panhandle to the Red River. This is your Only in Oklahoma show.
And welcome to the show. Today we're headed to the Stone Lion Inn in Guthrie, and then we're going to slip on down south to Route 66 in the Nightfall Haunted Territory in OKC. I'm Brett.
And I'm Harley.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, sir.
Yes, it's been so long since we've been together.
I think anybody that is tuned in to us doing shows historically has been waiting a while.
We've had a lot of complaints, a lot of dissension in the ranks of our fans, but we are back.
Yes, and it's a totally different show.
It is a fresh take on things that, I don't know, we've been overlooking, I feel.
Well, I think it really boils down to it's a totally different format. It's a different show altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're tuning in, specifically you're looking for the Travel Oddities type show, you're not going to find it here. Occasionally we're going to do a show that could qualify as a Travel Oddities show, but really this show's about the stuff that we have done or want to do in the state of Oklahoma that's fun.
And it doesn't take anything away from the weird and the wacky and the strange things that we've talked about. We
Absolutely
are still
not.
here.
Right.
It's just a lighter version.
I don't even know if it's a lighter version. It's an Oklahoma version.
It's an Oklahoma version. Absolutely.
So this is fall festival season.
Man, it doesn't feel like it. It's been 120 degrees out there at 7 o'clock, but yes.
Correct. So it is October officially?
October or, I don't know, Ok-tober?
Or Ok-tober?
Or you were going to say Ok-tober.
What's wrong with Ok-tober?
Because
the
October
31
rocks.
days, the 31 days of Ok-tober.
What are you saying? Are you saying we're going to be doing something for 31 days? No, we did that before.
We didn't like that very much on the 31 days of Oddtober.
That may be why we don't have travel oddities anymore.
I think that might have been the death nail in the show.
But but to be fair, there are a metric crap ton of fall festivals, pumpkin patches. I mean, 31 days is probably going light. We could probably go a little bit longer.
We're going to be doing our best to bring you some of the spookier side of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, in their stuff, we're going to sprinkle some stuff in there, put some candy coating on it for the kids, right?
Yes, I mean, there will be children's activities.
Or men behaving like children doing said activities.
Yes, I think we have had a couple of invites already to take part in some activities that I think we may be too old for.
Or I may be too scared to do.
Or that, yes.
But, to be honest, I can't think of a better way to kick off the Only in OK 31 days of October than with Becky Luker at the Stone Lion Inn in Guthrie.
Right, and we're going to get to her interview right after this.
Okay, before we go any further, where'd you get that shirt?
You mean this custom-designed Only in OK shirt?
Dude, the podcast is 17 seconds old.
The guys over at Master Threads printed them up for us.
Well, apparently not us. I don't have a Only in Oklahoma shirt.
Oh, did you not get yours?
Oh, and apparently a hat as well, embroidered? How is this even possible?
Brett, I'm just going to say that Master Threads is an Oklahoma-based company specializing in professional graphic design and embroidery.
And apparently lightning fast turnaround?
Absolutely. So they had made shirts for us in the past, back in the days when we were only international award-winning podcasters. They nailed that order too.
Well, apparently I'll have to call Jeff and the team at Master Threads myself to make it happen. But if you need local products from a local company you can trust, check out Master Threads at masterthreads.us.
That's masterthreads.us.
Master Threads. Well, it's been featured on Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, and really needs no introduction. It's the Stone Lion Inn in Guthrie, Oklahoma. And joining us today is the owner and proprietor, Becky Luker. Welcome, Becky.
Well, I'm so glad to be here.
Finally, we get to you.
This is exciting.
Yes, and I may be a little nervous. I'm a little starstruck. So let's just jump right in. Let's just get rolling.
Okay.
So how do you come about this 1907 Victorian former funeral home? How did that all start?
Well, I was a school teacher in New Mexico. I used to teach high school English and history, and I got out of that and I got into real estate and real estate development, and I owned a second largest real estate company at one time in Santa Fe, and I owned a small construction company. We did historic restorations, and I owned an art gallery, and then I got a divorce.
Oh, wow. And got it all.
I got everything. And I was really sad, and I decided I wanted to leave town. I had these two little boys, and a girlfriend of mine called me from Arkansas, and she had a bed and breakfast there. And I had owned a bed and breakfast in Santa Fe. It was one of those situations where I had bought a house to flip it,
mm-hmm.
and I spent about $100,000 more than I should have. You know, I had a partner who thought if there was checks in the checkbook, it meant there was money in the bank.
Right.
So we overdid it, and we could not get rid of it. And it was just tearing it was awful. And so we turned it into a bed and breakfast. We'd heard about bed and breakfast, and we turned it into one. Had one of the other brokers in my office running it, and it sold immediately.
Wow.
It was great. I thought, wow, that's terrific. So I got a little bit of experience there. And then after the divorce, I wanted to leave Santa Fe, and my girlfriend calls me from Arkansas, and she tells me about this great house that's for sale in Mountain View. Have you ever been to Mountain View?
I have
Arkansas?
not been to Mountain View, no.
It's charming. It's really charming. It's up in the Ozarks, and it's small. It's not the same place as Mountain Home. A lot of people get them confused. And it's kind of like a small Branson. It's really cute.
It sounds a little like Eureka Springs.
Yes.
Yeah, but not as developed. Not as developed. And so I looked at the house. I thought it had a lot of potential, and I was there for a few days. And about the third day, I said, well, you know, I'm kind of interested in going ahead and signing the contract, but before I do, let me go check out the school system. I'm a former teacher. And they said, sure. So they told me how to get there, and this little assistant principal met me at the door, and he shows me all around. And it was a nice property. They had done really well with their money that they had from tourism to help them get along, and everything seemed just perfect. And at the end of the tour, this is what he says to me. You are just the right kind of person to buy into Mountain View, and we're so glad you're going to do that bed and breakfast, because we're all about tourism, you know, ever since the shirt factory burned down and they sent all the equipment to Bangladesh. That's all we got going for us. And don't worry about your children. They will be safe here. It's a really safe community. We have no black people.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. This is 1986.
That's a hell of a sell. Golly.
Okay.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I think they did think it was a sale.
I guess so.
I think they were real serious. And I said, I don't think I understand you. And he starts to explain a little further, and I said, hold that thought just 1 minute. Children, go back to the car. Mommy has something to say to this man. Yes, take the car keys, and I'll be right there. Okay, bye. And as soon as they got out of shot, I kind of was sort of mean. I said ugly things. I did mention his mother.
Oh, wow.
And other relatives, limited gene pool. I believe that I threw in some sexual acts and animals. But, you know, I'm an English teacher.
Oh, yeah.
I'm an English teacher. I put those together in well-constructed compound complex sentences. And I had agreement between subject and verb. He knew exactly where I wanted him to go.
Well, they haven't been the same since, I'm sure.
I think they did fine. I went back to the car, tore up the contract, and headed out back to Santa Fe. Well, on my way, I saw Guthrie on the map, and I knew a lot about Guthrie. Guthrie, in the late 70s and 80s, was doing a restoration of their town, and they were considered one of the top 10 small towns in America to do historic restorations. It was a bang-up job. They'd really done a great job. So I stopped in here. I thought, well, we have to sleep somewhere tonight, so we'll sleep in Guthrie. Got up the next morning and went downtown to have something to eat, and I saw a picture of what is now the Stone Lion Inn on a window, a real estate window. And I inquired. They said, we can show you that this morning. And I said, great, let's look. And by the way, I saw black people. I saw black people, and I saw Hispanic people, and there was a Chinese restaurant with real Chinese in it. You know, it was like this is terrific. This is what I love. And, I came from Santa Fe, which was multicultural. So, yeah, it was the right deal, and everything fell into place. I got the financing I needed, and they were happy to have me because they were trying to get things going. Although I think they were really excited about getting the stone line in because at first they thought I was opening up a house of ill repute.
Oh, well, they have a history of that, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
Right, because they were the territorial capital, and they were the state capital, and we know that prostitution always follows, the
politics.
The common denominator. Well, the common denominator. There are two things that this follows. Mm-hmm. What follows, wherever you have a military base or you have a seat of government, what's the common denominator?
You tell me.
Large numbers of men away from home for long periods of time.
Right.
It's a hotbed for prostitution, and apparently back in the day, Guthrie was too. The last house of ill repute in Guthrie went out of business in 1972.
That's really not that long ago. Yeah.
Not the Thing Girls, though.
Right. Oh, I hope not.
They had a turnover. They didn't know what a bed and breakfast was in Guthrie in 1986. Now, understand, there were bed and breakfasts in New Mexico, Colorado, Arkansas had lots, Kansas had lots, Texas, but there were none. This is the first one. The Stone Line Inn is the first one in Oklahoma, and nobody knew what that was. I mean, well, I'm sure some people knew, but a lot of people did not know what a bed and breakfast was. And so when I told them I was opening up a bed and breakfast, they thought it was, put quotes around breakfast, bed and breakfast,
mm-hmm.
Like that was
right.
An extra something, right. So I got a contract, I went back to Santa Fe, I talked to the guys who were on my construction crew, and I asked them if they would come and help me put more bathrooms. There were only 2 bathrooms in the house, and I needed 8.
That's so common with houses, even that big back then, is maybe 1 or 2, if not
1 or 2. Yeah,
it's
right.
crazy.
And so we had to put in 8. We had to have 1 for each room. And so the guys came back with me, and we settled up I gave them all the contracts we had in Santa Fe and the name of our company and everything, and I just turned everything over to them. And they stayed here with me for 7 weeks and put 8 bathrooms in. And my mother came too. My mother came as the chaperone. My mother was really tall and handsome and kind of mean. She was pretty strict. And she says, "Well, Becky, you can live in Santa Fe with 7 men. No one will think anything of it. It's not going to play in Guthrie. I will go as your chaperone." So my mother came out as my chaperone. Isn't that the coolest thing?
That's too
it
funny.
It really was. It was really funny. And finally the mayor, we heard around town that there was this rumor that I was opening up this whorehouse, and some of the people in town I'd been to visit their shops before I'd gone back, had heard that I was doing a bed and breakfast, and all my guys, we were go into Ace Hardware to buy some lumber the first day we get to work on the house. The manager comes out and says, "You guys are getting quite a big load there. You need to run a tab." And I said, "Well, maybe so." And he said, "Well, what's the name of it?" And I said, "Well, we haven't named it yet, but we're doing that bed and breakfast over on Warner Street." And they said, "Oh, you boys are from the bed and breakfast." And they put the breakfast in quotations up in the air. You know how people do it, using their hand signals. And my manager didn't know what in the world they were talking about. So that's my foreman of my crew. And so he said, with quotations, "Yes." It was hysterical. And then I found out later that it used to be a funeral home.
Well, it's not a whorehouse, but it was a house of horrors if you think of funeral home as a
it never was. It never was a house of prostitution, but it was a funeral home. Back in the 1920s, the Houghtons, the original owners, fell on hard times. The boll weevil struck and cotton went under, and their whole fortune was tied into the cotton market. And they had the biggest cotton gin in Oklahoma. They were founder of Cotton Oil Company. They had several grocery stores and mercantile stores and the first car dealership. So this Mr. Houghton was quite an entrepreneur. In the 20s, when the boll weevil struck, they decided they would move to Enid, where oil had been discovered. And that's where, I believe, isn't it the Permian Basin? Do you guys know that?
Yeah, I think it's
Permian Basin.
Yes,
isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty hot. It's still a hotbed for oil.
And that had just been discovered. And so they thought Enid would be bigger than Oklahoma City. It was growing so fast. So the Houghton family moved there to watch their mercantile store, but they didn't want to sell this beautiful old house, and it is beautiful. I wish you were here with me. They didn't want to sell this beautiful old house, so they leased it to Smith's Funeral Home, and it became the mortuary in town.
I'm so jealous.
And so it's if you come sometime, and you're certainly invited, and I'll treat you to it. You can spend the night in a home that used to be a mortuary. And by the way, the embalming was done back in the kitchen where
everything,
Michelle, housekeeper, prepares your food.
Based the turkey, based your grandpa.
I didn't find that out for years. I mean for months. I didn't find it out for months. That it was a mortuary.
But how did you? I mean, you gotta. There's just something. I can't even. I'm just so excited about this. I cannot imagine what that would be like to live in an old funeral home.
Well, I didn't know. There's a big white table. There's this huge, gorgeous white porcelain table, and it was in the kitchen. And Mrs. Walker, now they were the second owners, and that's who I bought it from. Were the Walkers. They have since died, and I'm the third owner in a house that's over about 110 years old. So on the day of closing, I'm going through the house with Mrs. Walker, and all of the furniture had been auctioned off. Everything was gone. But we were walking through doing a checklist, and we came into the kitchen, and there was that big white table still there. Mrs. Walker had told me before that she had used that was her baker's table or her buffet, and her children would come home on the weekends, and she would cook for dinner after church, and then you throw a tablecloth over it, and everybody comes back for supper. That's 5 to 7 come and go. And I told her, "Oh, it's so beautiful. Aren't you going to take this with you, Mrs. Walker?" And she says, "No, sugar, we're downsized and we don't have room for that table. But you had admired it when you was here. We thought we'd leave it for you. Would you like to have that table?" I said, "I would love to have that table. It's so unusual." "Yes, it is unusual." "Is it a baker's table?" "Well, it certainly could be, sugar. You just use it any way you want. It's yours now." She knew damn well it was the embalming table from Isn't that a hoot?
That is great.
Yeah, I didn't find out for 3 months.
So, Becky,
Becky,
when did you start to suspect that this house was haunted?
I brought a lot of my construction guys back with me when I came back to close on the house so that they could help me put these bathrooms in. So there were like 6 carpenters and 1 engineer living with me and my mother. And we would hear stuff all night long, all kinds of movement. But when you're living with that many people, you figure somebody's up going to the bathroom, somebody's getting something to eat, or somebody's going out on the front porch and having a cigarette, which, by the way, was not helpful for my reputation. Half-naked men sitting on the front porch smoking cigarettes late at night. It sort of looked like I was already open with the house of ill repute.
Right.
And but we were hearing things, and they were hearing things, and my children would get awakened in the night. But we just figured it was because of the noise of the men and everybody walking around and stuff. But after we finished in 7 weeks' time, and opened it as the first bed and breakfast. And the guys all went back to Santa Fe. My mother went back to Santa Fe, and I was there alone in the house with these 2 little boys. And I began hearing all the things I was hearing before, but now it didn't make sense. There was no, there weren't guys going downstairs to the kitchen to get something to eat. But we would hear the footsteps. We would hear footsteps coming up to the 3rd floor. The door would open. The door would close. Nobody would be there. My children would get awakened in the night by noises they'd hear and talking that they would hear. We would hear a woman's laughter about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was really delightful. It was lovely. I hired a housekeeper, and she became my best friend, and she and I were experiencing in one of the rooms, I had some old dolls, and they were being placed out on the bed, and we'd go up there, and there would be 5 or 6 of them laying on a bed with a washcloth over their head.
Oh, my.
It was really freaky. Oh, yeah, that was happening, and that was really kind of freaked us out.
I was going to say, you never really got the indication that these were malevolent, nothing malevolent,
No.
Just kind of...
No.
Okay.
More playful.
Right.
Or more like a child playing. As a matter of fact, I think I understand the washcloth over the face. Now, I'm much, much older than you boys, so I'll tell you how things were back in the day, okay?
Okay, tell me.
When I was a kid, after lunch, when you came in from lunch, you had to bring, every week you had to bring a fresh towel, and you would, bath towel, and you would lay it on the floor, and you had to have a washcloth, and you would kind of lay down on the towel, and you would put the washcloth over your face so that you wouldn't look at other people while they were sleeping, and they wouldn't look at you because otherwise you'd be making faces and making noise and stuff or giggling. So you put the washcloth over it, and that helped you go to sleep. I thought it took me a while to figure out what was going on. That why were their faces being covered up with washcloths? At first I thought it was kind of sinister. Then I realized they've just come in from lunch. Somebody's playing with them, and they've just come in from lunch, and they have to go to sleep. So that made sense to me. And nothing that has ever happened has been frightening. It's all just been kind of playful. And on a couple of occasions, the house has really protected me and the children.
How so? By alerting you to things, or?
Yes.
Okay.
We were broken into one night, and the house woke me up and told me to get out. And it didn't say get out, it was in my head. But it was like something kept bothering me and trying to wake me up and shake me. And I finally got up, and I just heard this message in my head, get out of the house, get out of the house. And I grabbed the children, I went down the back stairs, and I got out. And sure enough, some boys had come in through the front door. I say boys, they were like 18, 19, 20, and I ran to the neighbors, and he ran over, and they ran off down the street. After that, we had been broken into a couple more times. After I started doing these murder mysteries about 6 months after I bought the house. People would leave, would bring a liquor bottle to their room, and they would just leave them. We'd put them all downstairs in the kitchen after the next morning, and people could pick them up and take them home with them. We don't provide any alcohol,
right.
But people, because they're spending the night, they can bring their own in their room. But if they would leave them out on the table, we'd just put them up in the kitchen. On Sundays, whatever was left there, we didn't pay much attention to it and just left it there. And I think it was these same boys kept breaking in and stealing the liquor. Then they broke in a couple of times. And this would be when I would leave on Sunday afternoon with the children and go someplace. Then they would break in, and they started stealing some food. Well, I couldn't begrudge people food because that's, I think everybody deserves food. So I didn't think much of that. And then they were stealing the food and cooking it right there.
Full
Isn't
service.
that brazen?
Yes.
Yeah, they were even cooking it there. And then it stopped, and I figured they've gotten arrested. They must be doing this someplace else, too. Sure enough, the police contacted me and told me what had happened. Their parents were truck drivers, and one day they'd gotten in their truck and drove off and never came back.
Wow.
Left these two boys. One of them was 14, the other was 17. And 2 other guys moved in with them in the house, and, they were doing what they could to just stay alive. I did not press any charges.
So let me ask you this, Becky. You said you started doing the murder mysteries shortly after you opened. Okay, so you opened the murder mysteries shortly after it opened. Is that when you started getting the reports of Irene upstairs, or how much farther down?
No.
Okay.
No, that had been going on from the very beginning.
Okay.
From us moving into the house. That began happening right then. I think it was because I had these 2 little boys, and it was kind of interesting for her. My youngest, Ral, Mazza, he was 7 when I bought the house. She was 7 when she died in the house. And she was one of 12 children, and she was the only one not to make it through childhood.
That was a tough time.
She contracted whooping cough. She was born in the house that they had first originally built in the 1900s. In 1900, and then in 1907 they ran out of room because they had 6 kids. The first wife died; she had 4, and then he remarried, and the second wife had 2 while they were living next door. And then he amassed this fortune and built this house and had 6 more children.
Wow!
So he had 12 children, and this little girl, Irene, apparently contracted whooping cough. And what is believed to have happened is the maid over-medicated her and she died. It was an accidental poisoning. You know, in those days, whatever the kid was sick with, they'd just put that down on the death certificate, you know. They knew she had it. So nowadays, I'm sure it would be totally different. They would probably do an autopsy and say, you know, you killed the kid. I mean, that's a horrible thing to think of. But they would say it was, you know, an overdose of prescription drugs or something. And then there would be an investigation, and then, you know, it'd be kind of heartless.
But more importantly, 12 kids with 2 bathrooms. I think the Brady Bunch had at least 4 bathrooms.
Well, yeah, they only had 2 bathrooms. They had one in the wedding suite, that's where the parents were, we call it the wedding suite. And then there was another one at the end of the hall. It was a very large bathroom. So two kids could go in there and brush their teeth, or one could be showering or whatever. I mean, it was probably a deal where the girls have the shower or they have the bathroom for this long a time, and then the boys have it or something.
So, Becky, do we just assume that Irene probably does most of the I don't know, mucking about in terms of or do we have names for any of the? Do we have suspected names for any of the others, perhaps?
Well, my housekeeper sees Mr. Houghton down in the basement.
Oh.
And she has seen Mr. Houghton. Mrs. Houghton died there, and Mr. Houghton died in the 30s sometime in the house. And the second Mrs. Houghton died in the house also. And my housekeeper sees this man, and he's got this tall hat on, and she sees him at the back of the basement when she goes down to do the laundry, and she has told me this for years. And finally we took the laundry out because she finally got scared and said she wasn't doing laundry anymore. So I moved it to another property I own, and that's where we do the laundry. But so there's that. People have seen other people there, and I think that's because it was a mortuary.
I would have to guess.
People wandering around. Yeah. But we don't know who they are, and we don't disturb them or try to rustle them out or anything. I've had several psychics show up or call me. I even had one from Kansas City who apparently worked with the Kansas City Police Department and found missing children. And she wanted to come and see if she could find out anything. And I said, it's fine, but I don't want any exorcism type stuff.
Right.
I don't want to make this whatever is going on here, we live peaceably with it. And if anything, I feel like it's protected us, and I don't want to make anybody mad. So she did come. I said, well, do you feel the little girl? And she said, oh, yes, and so much more.
So with that being said, obviously you're going to attract paranormal groups from all over, but you've been on some of the bigger television shows. How does one get? Do people email and request them to go to you, or do you reach out to them, or do they reach out to you? How does that work?
I have never reached out to anyone. What happened when this first started happening in these paranormal groups in the early kind of 90s? Once in a while we'd get a group saying, we'd like to investigate old homes and old properties, and we'd like to come by. And my standard answer was, oh, no ghosts in this house, nothing here, nothing to see here.
Right. And
I wouldn't let anybody in because I did not want that reputation. I did not want anybody to think that we were crazy or anything. And finally, it was probably 1999, this group out of Oklahoma City called OK-tober.
Yeah, I know those guys.
Yeah, really nice. And at that time, I think they had 3 police officers with them. And they just came up to meet me. They kind of, they kind of just showed up without calling first, so I didn't have any way to get away from them. If I knew they were coming, I would have said, don't come. But They did, and they were really nice. I thought, with 3 police officers, they've seen a lot. They've done a lot. They're not going to go screaming through the house and terrified and, make a mess or anything like that. These are people who are thoughtful and pretty grounded, and I really liked them. I liked all of these people, and so I said, yes, you can do a hunt. So they spent an evening there and did a hunt, and they recorded a lot of stuff, and they shared it with me, and then I would let them come on a regular basis, not on the weekends, like Sunday through Thursday, and they were very mindful of the property. They never broke anything. They were very kind, and I thought they were quiet, kind people, and that's the kind of people you want in your house, especially a house that's got as many valuables and old.
Absolutely.
Well, I think they're valuable, but they're really probably just old junk, but there's a lot of antiques in there.
Well, a lot of those teams run a lot of, you've got some of the bigger ones, especially like the Ghost Hunter guys and the Ghost Adventure guys that are running a lot of cables. You got guys with cameras stumbling around in the dark.
But you would be surprised at how careful they are.
Mm-hmm.
When Ghost Hunters came, there's like 17 guys in that crew. And at that time, this was in the early 2000s. At that time, I think they were all I'm thinking they were all in their early 20s to mid 30s, if that old. And they were so much fun. And they were really, really careful of each other. They watched what they said. They didn't hurt each other's feelings. They were nice people, really nice people, and funny. Get this, they had just recently discovered Laugh-In. Do you remember
really?
that
Oh, yeah.
old
Rowan
show?
Martin's Laugh-In, yeah.
Rowan and Martin. Well, these guys are too young to know who Laugh-In was. That was a 70s thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when they discovered Laugh-In, they thought that was a hoot. So between shoots, they would try to redo some of the Laugh-In skits. You remember the one on the tricycle, where a grown-up guy is on a tricycle and he's got this hat over his head, and he's dressed up real warm, like it's freezing outside, and he gets on the tricycle and he goes down the sidewalk and just falls over?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, it's really stupid. It's really stupid. But when you see a grown man get on a tricycle and just fall straight over, it's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them, they did it. For every one of them, they filmed them.
That's funny.
In front of my house, going down the street, going down the sidewalk, falling over. Each one of those guys took a turn and got filmed.
So
they did. They were fun. They were really a lot of fun. But I will tell you that they did play. Yeah, they took really close. They were all about finding the truth of something. They were really very truthful. They were sticklers for that. They wanted to find the truth. Is it haunted? There's something else going on here? They were really good. And they'd gotten punked one time.
Mm-hmm.
So they do a thorough background investigation of your house before they come. And they do a thorough background investigation of you, which is a little scary. When they find out things about you that you didn't even know. So they are really dedicated to the process.
So let me ask you this.
To doing it right.
Let me ask you this, Becky. We were talking a little bit ago about psychics wanting to come in, and you never wanted anybody to exercise anything because, again, you're living peacefully
right.
with the other side, basically. In terms of, you've been on just a litany of articles, TV shows, write-ups, specials.
Yeah,
obviously, that's got to do that's got to do something for foot traffic. Have you just seen just this huge surge since appearing on these TV shows? And
we have. It's not all good.
Right.
But we have had a lot of people wanting to do ghost hunts and stuff, and that's fine. But it's also a commercial property. This is how I make my living. And so it's not like I can let people just come in and just go rampant through the house and tear up everything or make, sleep in the beds and stuff like that. There have to be some parameters. And usually we have to charge them at least for what it's going to cost us in utilities and cleanup and that kind of thing. Some of them are very put off by that. They think it should be free.
Right.
But it is a business. and I have to run it as a business in order to keep the cash flow going, and when they make a mess, somebody's got to clean it up.
Right. It's almost like they want...
And they usually don't.
Yeah, and they want it to be able to tell you something you already know. Like, by now, you kind of have an idea of what you're dealing with, and I think they feel like sometimes they're doing you a favor. Like, not really.
Oh, yeah. I had one of them. I had one guy say, and we won't charge you.
You're right.
He told me, and he said, yes, we want to do a ghost hunt in your house, and we won't charge you. And I said, oh, really? Nice. And nobody else has either.
All right, Becky. So we know that, the paranormal is a huge part of what the stone... I think that's got to be is it a 50-50 draw? People are either coming for the chance at the paranormal, or is it more murder mystery, or is it kind of a combination of both?
Mystery.
Okay.
It's really the murder mystery. I would say maybe 25% of the traffic we get is for people hoping for some kind of an experience in the house. But if you want how we regularly fill up, and we're full every Friday and Saturday night, it's the murder mysteries. And that's because everybody gets to play a part.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times after you're a grown-up do you get to play?
Well, I've been married twice.
You watch.
I've been married twice, Becky. I played husband 2 times. Didn't do well.
You played husband twice?
I did play husband twice. So I would love to be a murderer.
Yeah, we get that a lot. But I want to pick out who I murder, that kind of thing.
So tell somebody, for somebody that's never done a murder mystery before, can you kind of give me a little bit of a brief overview on
Sure.
how do you who chooses what and how it all works?
Okay. Well, first of all, you have to make a reservation.
Okay.
And we take between 20 and 40 people. We take 20 people who are spending the night and 20 people who are not spending the night.
Mm.
I own other properties now here in town, and so we have about 20 rooms. So we take, or we can put them at other bed and breakfast too. So we take these 20 people who are spending the night and 20 people who are not. And we get a lot of information from them when they make their reservation. They have to make their reservation by calling us because we want their age.
Mm-hmm. Then
we listen to them. If they say something like, oh, my husband's only doing this because I've wanted it to do it for so long and he just hates this kind of thing, and so give him a real small part. We write all that in the notes.
Oh, wow.
So that when we get ready to assign characters, we have a way of knowing which way we're going. Or they'll be really fun. They'll say, oh, I did a little theater when I was in high school, or I did this in college. And, we give them bigger parts because they know something about the process.
Mm-hmm.
And we do listen. We do listen to them. And that's real important, is to be a good listener, figure out who's going to fit in what part. Then we have a list of characters. We have 20 men and 20 women. As we're picking them out, we go down the list of guests we have, and we look for the age appropriate, first of all, to make sure that we're getting age appropriate things, so that somebody who's playing a father isn't younger than his daughter, or,
Right.
That's kind of awkward. So we have a lot of information. We feel, and it's kind of like magic. It works out every single time. It seems to work out. And we don't tell the person who's going to get murdered until they get here, because they'll call you for a week and say, it says I'm going to get murdered, and I've never died before, and I don't think I can do it. Well, nobody else has either,
right.
Betty, so it's you.
We're all new at
we
this.
don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do. And the language that you use empowers people. So when the person arrives who's going to die, you call them back in the kitchen and you just say this. By the way, you're going to die, and this is how you're going to do it. When I make this signal, you die. Do it kind of like this. You just give it to it, and you don't give them a choice. You just say, by the way, you're going to die. This is how you do it. When I do this, you do this. They do it every time.
God,
We've never had anybody not die because then we'd have to kill them.
No near death incidents on the murder mystery.
No near death. We get them dead. So they do a great job. It's amazing. The other night, some guy accidentally, I think he was so nervous, and when she kind of gave him, I have a younger woman who does this now because I'm getting too old and cranky, and so she gave him the signal to die, and he died in a salad bowl. God. He put his forehead down in his salad bowl. That has never happened before. I got to tell you, we really had a good laugh over that at breakfast. And then we never tell the person who's the killer that they're the killer until they get there, because they'll blab.
Yeah.
They'll tell people, so we have to be real careful what we say. It just always works out. And I've had enough, I've been doing this enough years. We know how to move people from one scene to the next seamlessly. They don't even realize what's happening to them. They just do it, and they're having so much fun they don't care.
Wow.
It's funny. That's the other thing. It is not frightening. I make characters that are crazy, just crazy, like Rico Ice Pick Toledo.
Yeah.
You don't ask a guy like Ice Pick too many questions.
No. Do you create a character like I don't know, Ray the Undertaker? Because I look like the guy that probably closes down the cemetery at night.
For our Halloween. Our Halloween murder mystery that I wrote 25 years ago. It's called Far Ukrainian Casket Company, and they are about to be overtaken by Screw. That's Southern Caskets Recycling Endangered Wood.
Nice.
4 members of the family want to sell, and 4 members don't want to sell. Well, you got to break a tie somehow. One of them's going to have to die. And 4 members, or 2 of the members, are vampires. And they're always trying to get the bite on their cousins. It's just, it's a vampire. We've got Fang the dwarf, who inevitably he ends up being some guy like 6'4", and he has to play Fang the dwarf. And he says, how am I supposed to do this? And I said, make up something. And they make up stories about themselves,
I like that.
Well, once they moved to Europe, they got better food, blah, 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 and they think of, make it up. Just make up your character. This is who you are. You can add to it.
So you bring, obviously,
and it's fun.
You have your own costume. You have to bring your own costumes, obviously, right?
Yes, but we just tell them either go to Goodwill or take things out of your closet and accessorize. We do not expect them to rent costumes, but I will tell you that a lot of them do.
Yeah.
And I write the murders in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, so they're pretty easy to dress for. If you go earlier than that period of time, then you're looking at long dresses and a lot of difficulty getting around quickly, because you can't walk very well.
Bowler hats and things like that.
Yeah, we stick to an era where it's pretty easy to dress. And, a lot of the dresses that women wear every day or every evening are knockoffs from the 20s and 30s and 40s. It's pretty easy to dress.
All right, Becky, so let me ask you this. Moving forward, I know, it's pretty cut and dry what you have going on up there, which is a great operation. And, again, I need to get up there. I would love to stay up there during the week. What is coming up? It's that time of year. I tend to stay away from things that can be scary when it's 110 degrees outside, just because I'm trying not to die of dehydration. So We're getting into the fall. We're getting towards Halloween. Do you do anything special, kind of building up to? I mean, let's be realistic. For some of us, it's first Christmas, which is Halloween. Anything that we can expect there that's different than normal?
No, we still just do our Halloween murder mystery, when I just described it. We do that the whole month of October. Now, what we are adding is we are going to begin giving tours of the house, and we've never done that before. And, well, I did years and years ago when I first opened up. I would give tours if people showed up and they wanted to see the house. I'd give a little tour and charge $5, but now I'm doing it more professionally, pretty much the way they do it at some of the Louisiana tour homes. I'm going to have it a little more formalized. So I am starting to do tours, but we don't try to make anything scary.
Okay.
Now we put out, pumpkins and all that kind of stuff, but I don't want people to think that death is always scary or that it's a horror house. It's not.
Right.
Everybody, the children who lived there were loved. There were 12 Houghton children, and from everything I've heard, and I met 3 of them that were still alive when I bought the house. The parents doted on them. They were loved, and everybody who's lived in the house has felt like they were loved. So I don't want to dote on any of that stuff that's ugly.
I mean, we used an embalming table. We did use an embalming table for a baking table, so I guess we're not taking it we're not reading too much into it. But
No. By the way, when I found out it was an embalming table, I did move it out of the kitchen, and I put it in the hallway, and now we use it as a bar. That's another form of pickling.
Yes, indeed it is. So,
yeah, so, we have a sense of humor. We just don't want to have a sense of gore.
Right, absolutely.
All the time, because I don't think they get plenty of that.
Absolutely.
Cartoons.
You can do that on.
Stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, in terms of booking, I'm assuming, kind of going back to it is that time of year, how far out does somebody need to book if they want to be anywhere close to Halloween with you guys? I mean, you pretty much booked solid already?
Halloween is pretty, we book up pretty far in advance. October is a big month for us.
You can almost set your watch to it.
Halloween is also my birthday.
Is it really?
Yes, and it was a wonderful birthday to have. It really was. When I was really little, my parents would dress us up and send us out to go trick-or-treating, and they would say, "This is your birthday party." Those cheap people.
Yeah.
They sent me out trick-or-treating and told me it was all for me. Everybody was there for me.
So I'm guessing that
this is your party.
That you're probably against, there's a huge push right now, I don't know if you're paying attention, to move Halloween, the trick-or-treating aspect, move Halloween to a Saturday or like a Friday night and have
they have been doing that. That's a commercial thing so that the stores and stuff can get in on it. And
I know there's a petition to get it to where they actually move the holiday Halloween to where it doesn't affect. When I was a kid, in the 80s, we went trick-or-treating on a Tuesday night. We didn't care, and we were out till midnight.
Yeah, right. That's right. I think it's kind of silly. I hate to see them do that, but I do know that there is some talk about that. But, that's like, everything has to get sanitized.
Yes.
Everything has to be around the school year. And I don't think that everything should be around. It would be like, are they going to move Jesus' birthday? Are they going to move Passover and Hanukkah? I mean, no, they're not. They go by a prescribed, calendar.
Right.
So I think it's a bad idea.
We had Halloween on Monday, and I think most of us turned out just fine. So.
Yeah. We had holiday, it fell on what day it fell.
Exactly. Well, Becky,
you just had a great time anyway.
This is going to be, I'm going to ask an obvious question, but again, we're kind of trying to highlight maybe some people like myself that haven't been up that way. What is the best way to reach you or to reach the Stone Lion Inn? I know obviously social media, there's a ton of avenues to do that, but what are the best ways to do that for you?
Well, to make a reservation, you have to call us. And we will talk to you for as long as you want. We're really good at this. The reason we want you to call us is because if you're making a reservation for the murder mystery, we try to find out as much about you as we can. So to make your time here worthwhile. We're real into giving big bang for the buck.
It sounds like it.
We want this to be. Yeah, we're really thoughtful about that. And if there's some, if you have, if there's something that you want to do, like a lot of people get engaged during the murder mystery. They want to propose. We've even done weddings during the murder mystery, and then we usually end up killing the bride. That's
perfect.
Fun. Yeah.
I don't mean it that way. I'm sorry. I don't mean it that way. But
it'll be something they will remember their whole life.
It's usually the husband that gets the rap, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's true. But we do things like that. So you have to contact us. We don't do it online.
Well, Becky, what I appreciate.
We have a lot of stuff online, but you have to call us.
What I appreciate, and really our main focus is what you've done for the city of Guthrie, what you've done for tourism in Oklahoma. You have made a huge impact. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. If you see how many people are checking in from the Stone Lion, seeing how many people have visited. I mean, it's just what started as a overnight stay on your way home became something that's cherished and loved by thousands upon thousands of people. And I just really admire what you're doing for the state, to be honest.
That is so nice of you to say. It really, it turned out well for all of us.
It was a gamble.
It was a gamble. Yeah. At one time I thought I was going to go broke.
Wow.
When I first opened it up, people would arrive at my doorstep and they'd say, well, this is a house. I'd say, yes, you're spending a night in somebody's lovely old house. Won't you come in? They'd say, I don't want to stay in your house. It's creepy. And you're kind of creepy. And they would leave.
Wow.
And, so it was doing the murder mysteries is what really got it off the ground. But, it's been good for me. It's been good for my family. My kids went to school here. I want you to know that they both went to college here in Oklahoma, and then they went to law school, and they're both successful men. They're in their 40s now, and they're cute at this age.
Yeah,
they dress well, and they, you know what? They take me to dinner, and they pay.
Hey, I kind of feel like you made it. You've made it.
I know. They're in their 40s. Isn't that great? You raise them up, you get them. They've got jobs.
Right. You're supposed to. That's the best way to train a caregiver. Is to raise them right. I guess it's the best way to do that.
They're really nice people, and they grew up in this crazy business with people living all, in their face all the time, but they did it well.
I mean, you're really, to me, you're a celebrity status. This is a big deal. People just admire you, admire what you do, and again, I appreciate you taking the time
you need to
be
get up here.
I will.
You need to get up here.
Tell me.
I will
tell me what to do.
To a night.
Tell me what to do. Tell me how to do it, and I'll do it.
Tell me when you've got time off.
Okay, I'll do that.
Just call me and say, I got a weekend. I'd like to come up, or I've got a day during the week, and I'd like to come spend the night by myself or with a friend or whatever.
Okay,
that's
perfect.
Fine.
I would love to do that. Well, Becky, I really appreciate you being on the show. I thought you were going to eat me alive. I really did think you were going to eat me alive because we talked last week, and I would get off the phone going, God, I've never been to Guthrie. I've never been to this place. I was nervous. I was dreading the interview because I just knew you were going to chew me up and spit me out. But you're literally one of the sweetest people I've ever spoken to.
Thank you.
You're a mom first, a caretaker second, or a caregiver second, a caretaker third. I love that about you, and thank you so much for being on the show. And hope you'll be back.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed my time, and I've really enjoyed you.
Thank you so much.
It's been great.
Well, that was Becky Luker with the Stone Lion Inn. She is a ton of fun.
I really like the history around the place more than anything.
Oh yeah,
the haunting, that's super cool. All the press that they've gotten over the years, awesome. But the history around it, her story, and the inn story.
And also what I like and I'm going to kind of not nitpick, but she doesn't put a lot of emphasis on the haunting, which I think a lot of people that would go there already have a preconceived notion about it. But she doesn't, she lives peacefully with whatever it is up there and always has. And I just like that she's not trying to cash checks based on the story.
I see where you're coming from, but I still think the appeal is there for anybody. I think she just doesn't want to play on, the scary part of it because it's not scary.
No, it's not scary. And there's nothing scary about her. She's like the sweetest person I've ever met. So with that being said, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more covered in blood and guts and gore, then we've got the guys from Nightfall Haunted Territory coming up right after this. All right, 6 goes into 7. 1 is... God, I'm so frustrated. I'm scared to death. I'm an independent contractor, and I don't want to get punched in the jimmy by the IRS.
Brett, why don't you give our buddy Justin over at the Holiday Tax Group a call? One of their specialties is tax preparation and planning. And then on top of that, if you have a run-in with the IRS, they're going to have your back.
Perfect. But how do I find them?
You can reach them at holidaytaxgroup.com. And if the independent contractor thing works out for you, they also do estate planning. So they got you back on that one as well.
Oh, thank goodness. Thanks for the advice. That's holidaytaxgroup.com. Holiday with 2 L's. So it's the season of pumpkin and spice, everything nice, pumpkin patches and haunted attractions. And speaking of haunted attractions, we've got the guys from Nightfall Territory. What's going on, Rod?
How you guys doing? Hello.
And Andrew, you're back there as well. Okay, I forgot all about you back there. We're doing well. So tell us a little bit about how it all started.
We always threw a huge Halloween party each year in my backyard. I live on an acre of land, and we always made this haunted trail that people would have to walk through just to get to the Halloween party itself inside a barn and everything. And so Rod and I actually went to high school together, but we were a few years apart, so we didn't really know each other that well. And he started to come to the Halloween party, and we just kept talking, and he started coming over and helping decorate and set up the thing more than any of the other friends would. And we just started talking. He asked me one day, why don't we do this? Have you ever thought about doing this on a large scale? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's one of my dreams. So he's the only close friend that, would get off his butt and get anything done. So we just kind of made it from there.
Well, that kind of sounds like how Harley and I came up with this podcast. He's usually the guy that cracks the whip, and I'm the one that, is busily doing something else. So I read that you guys are obviously huge horror fans. I attended your convention a couple of months back. A lot of fun. There's a lot of promise there. Thank you for bringing horror back to Oklahoma in the mainstream. So how does that influence the attraction?
So the idea was to promote our attraction. I ran the idea by Andrew to say, hey, let's do a horror convention. It might bring some light attention to our haunted attraction. And to be honest, he didn't think it was the greatest idea because Oklahoma is not really known for horror.
No.
But it turned out to be quite successful, not just, by attendees, but just the attraction that has come to the haunted attraction itself, I guess. And it's actually turned into a big business. It's kind of overwhelming and stressful, to be honest.
It was cool to see a lot of the other haunts from the surrounding areas in the state come to our thing, which we purposely named the Horror Con with our haunted house name, Nightfall Haunted Territory, so that it would boost the name also. And it was cool to see these other haunts come be a part of our haunt, so to speak. So.
Well, and you guys, obviously, it there for a while, probably a small fish in a big pond when they had, the Bricktown Haunted Warehouse and things like that. How do you guys separate yourselves from the other attractions that maybe are what's different, more interesting?
I'm going to be honest. I think the passion that Andrew and I have is completely different from the other haunt owners with all due respect. I think most of the haunts in the city, which I'm probably going to get backlash for this, but I really don't care. This is Rod speaking, by the way. They're in it for the money. We're in it for the passion. You can tell the difference when you come to our haunted attraction compared to others. I know that's you'll understand when you come to a haunt.
You got to pat yourself on the back. You guys do a great job.
We wanted to also make something that was like kind of a throwback to what we remember going through as teenagers and even kids and stuff. It's scary, like adult scary, but it's not like a bunch of Hollywood effects and stuff. A lot of it's just handmade, things and ideas. And that's what we remember going through in the 80s and 90s. And so, yeah.
That sounds awesome. What exactly, we're obviously a travel podcast. Can you guys kind of give us the overview?
The overview for this year is going to be, last year we tried to do a Stranger Things, a one themed haunt, and it went over really well, but people kept asking and wanting us to bring back all the major horror film characters. And that's what you don't see a lot in haunted houses anymore is people paying close attention to to the details of the main horror film characters, like, whatever, I can't name them, but, so we bring all the major horror film characters into our thing, and we create scenes out of the movie that you would recognize and be like, oh, wow, this is such and such from this movie or whatever. So
you're throwing a little nostalgia into the mix as
yes,
well
sir.
as the scares.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that nostalgia is a big part of horror anymore. I think we're kind of in this horror renaissance where everything old is new again. And by the way, did you guys set up the Stranger Things photo booth thing, basically photo op at the Nightfall? Sir. Was that yours? Was that from your haunt?
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's just from one of, yes.
Okay. I freaking, that was a hit. There was a traffic jam coming down the middle aisle there. That is just so cool.
Here.
Yeah. So, horror guys, obviously, fan favorites. Who's your go-to slasher? Just kind of off.
There's only one, and I don't even know why Andrew's going to answer, but it's Michael Myers.
Yes, thank you very much. You are welcome back to the show anytime you want.
Yeah.
All day long.
I'm gonna have to agree also with him about Michael Myers, but My Andrew's biggest favorite is Leatherface. There's only one there, so.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one, guys. So, yeah, we're moving on. We're not even going to talk about him. He looks like bacon. But anyway, so when does it start? I know is it towards the end of the month? Where are we looking for a launch date here?
We're going to be opening October the 4th.
October 4th.
It's Friday, October the 4th. We'll be open every weekend, all the way up until November the 2nd. And I believe that last week we'll be open 5 or 6 days. So just depending on how traffic is, we open probably usually the whole week, that last week, to be honest. So we've actually teamed up with Medican. It's a dispensary here right next to us. And we're going to have a smoke bus for those with medical cards. We're going to have celebrity guests throughout the season. We're going to have vendors here along with our haunted attraction. And we're going to be playing horror movies. It's a big event. It's
that's
really
killer.
fun.
That's like a horror tailgate party.
Yeah.
But you've got the anxiety medicine. That's all that matters. Something to keep us calm. We got to stay calm. So, hours of operation, what are we talking? Dusk till midnight or what?
We're going to sell tickets up until 11 p.m., but if you're in line, you can go till however long. We spoke with the city about a noise ordinance, and they said there isn't one, so I guess they could go till 3 in the morning as long as you're in line.
Okay, so
have a party with them.
So you're saying sound ordinance or noise ordinance. Where's it at? I mean, is it smack dab in the middle of the city?
We're at 39th and Council. We're just a half a mile west on 39th Street on the south side of the street. You can't miss us.
Wow.
You'll see the fog, the strobe lights, the lighting, the screams. Well, you'll hear that.
Okay, so I'm probably gonna drive around it. I love horror, but I hate to be scared. Sorry, guys. My card has been revoked, but I'm sorry. It's true. I can't help it. So moving forward in the future, obviously going to be bigger and better next year. You've got the convention coming back again in July with a bigger venue. What can you tell us moving forward for Nightfall? What we got going on?
Well, a lot of people are asking why we moved. We are going to the Reed Convention Center at the Sheraton in Midwest City. It's just a couple of miles east of Oklahoma City. Really easy to access. Super nice place.
Yeah, I think they've had a couple of Sooner Cons there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What are the dates on that upcoming convention?
It's going to be Friday and Saturday, July 11th and 12th. So we're moving to a 2-day convention this year. We were only 1 day. The reason why we did that, we really were unsure of how it would turn out. It was just a gamble, and it was really successful. So people want 2 days. The celebrities want 2 days. The vendors want 2 days. So we're bringing 2 days.
Well, Convention Hound, I'm going to ask one last question about the convention. When can we expect the trickling in of guest announcements?
We're working on that now, so we'll have a whole new slew of guests. So we're just in negotiations right now, seeing what's available and what we're working on.
In terms of horror guests, you guys knocked it out of the park. So where can people find you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Call either one of us. Our numbers are on the Facebook, and also you can go to nightfallhauntedterritory.com, and then Facebook, you can just search Nightfall Haunted Territory, and it'll pop right up. So we're really quick to message people back in most cases on the Facebook and everything. So
that's awesome, guys.
He means me.
I know who I can trust.
Well, guys, I really want to thank you for investing your time and energy and money into, I think, a much needed area of entertainment here in Oklahoma. We really appreciate what you're doing, and we want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate your time as well.
Okay, well, I'm going to be the first to tell you, you're welcome to take your kids. I think your kids got bigger stones than I do, so I'll wait outside and keep the car warm, and you can tell me all about it.
I don't understand how you are such a fan of horror movies, but you literally can't take the slightest jump scare in reality.
I don't like it. It's not the costumes. It's the jump scare, period. Any house could be a haunted house if somebody steps out and goes, ha! I'm toast.
I don't know. I loved both the interviews.
Oh, yeah, great interviews.
I'm just going to have to say that we're back, Mortimer.
We're back. Oh, nice. Nice. And if you're out there listening and you catch the reference, then you're already in the club.
So our plan is to jam-pack the month of October.
Jam.
Call it whatever you want, Oddtober, Okla-tober.
Ok-tober.
Ok-tober. We've got plenty more to come, so go to onlyanok.com. You can find all the links to the guests from today.
The winning lotto numbers.
The winning lotto numbers are there, and links to all of our social media. So give us a like, give us a listen.
Well, this has been the Only an OK Show. I'm Brett.
And I'm Harley.